Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And we have talked about it for months.
Is it game day?
Is the day. This is game day. Kickoff is right now. Polls are opening as we speak, and they will be open for the next 12 hours. And hopefully this time tomorrow we'll be sitting here popping the champagne corks and having a big time, not sitting here in sackcloth and ashes, but that's up to you. So please, and no complaining if you don't vote today, okay?
No one that doesn't vote gets to complain. You get to
Exactly.
reap the rewards of your decision.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We may not always get the government we want, but we'll always get the government we deserve.
Yes, that is very true, Bill. And, you and I have done a lot of talking. We are both game day voters. We think it's fun to make this a really fun day for everyone. I still vote that we have a national holiday around it. Don't know if it will ever happen, but I'm still hoping.
I would like to, and I'm one of those, I like to vote late, about 6:30 or so, because I want to get the vote count in my precinct and see how things are going. So I usually go in around 6:30, quarter of 7. But as long as you're in line by 7 o'clock, you can vote.
That is wonderful, Bill. I did not know that about you.
I didn't know also, I remember the last time that I saw a line, or long lines at the voting booths before we had same day elections, before we had, or their pre-elections. I had early voting, whatever
we're calling it these days, right?
No. Was when Ronald Reagan was elected president, 1980. I remember seeing the lines of people standing outside the polling place, backed up into the parking lot. So hopefully I see that again today.
Yes, and I did hear, if this is any indication, in Miami-Dade County, there is record turnout beating the Democrats for Republicans. So more Republicans have turned out than Democrats so far.
In Dade County.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, for real. So I think that's a pretty good indication that we are going to be seeing a red tsunami, and rightly so. Then it's up to the Republicans to grow a backbone.
Well, I think it's also up to the citizens to hold them to what they promised us.
We can hold their feet to the fire. There's no doubt about it, and we're going to have to.
Yes, we have not done a great job of that, Bill. I think that that's been one of our weaknesses, especially as Republicans, because you know what, Bill? I don't want to get involved. I want to just live my life, do what I want to do, and be left alone. But, unfortunately, we can no longer do that.
What has frustrated me is about when the Republicans have campaigned on an issue like getting rid of Obamacare. And they said, well, we need the Congress, so we gave them the Congress. Oh, well, we need the Senate, too. We gave them that. We really need the presidency. Not thinking there were a lot of them like Paul Ryan, who was one of the biggest disappointments in the history of politics, win the presidency. So we had all three. And they said they were going to eliminate Obamacare. When it came time, they caved like the proverbial cheap mattress. And it is just pathetic. It's like, don't you know that we have your back? Don't you know that's what we voted you in for? What do you mean you didn't want to offend somebody? Oh, well, it's already there, so what do we need to do to change it? Yeah, a lot. One of the reasons that we have such lousy medical service now, and it's still probably the best in the world, but at the same time, it's gone to hell in a handbasket. Many doctors had to give up their private practices and go to work for the hospitals because of it, because they couldn't afford to keep a staff anymore because of all the paperwork that they had to fill out. And a lot of clinics came up, sprang up, saying, okay, we'll just take cash, we won't take insurance, and they prospered enormously. And how do you do it? How do you make it medicine affordable? You can do, and Sean Hannity did the best job of going to Congress with two doctors who had formed this consortium, I think in Kansas, but it may have been Iowa, don't quote me. But they had set up this clinic where a family paid $50 a month and they could get unlimited access to everything, except if you had to have an X-ray, well, there was a little more charge for that. But they signed contracts with drug companies, so they had drugs down to practically pocket change. What you pay for an OTC medicine, you pay for a prescription drug, and they were celebrating, and the only thing that you had to pay extra for was catastrophic things, traumatic accident or cancer, tuberculosis, whatever it is. He paid over and above that, but $50 a month for a family, unlimited visits, drug prices that were just practically pennies on the dollar, and Congress just sat there like the proverbial stumps on a log, and well, that sounds too simple. it has to be complicated. So we have to have these 5,000-page bills, which ought to be also be unconstitutional. I'd like to see that change for and just like we came up with balanced budget amendments in most states, and that's why most red states are doing so well, like Georgia and South Carolina, is because we have a balanced budget. If the Congress went to the same thing, things would be a lot cheaper and a lot better.
Yeah. And also, Bill, the thing that bothers me about how the taxes are set up is that, yes, as a red state, we have a balanced budget. We have a surplus. Guess what? Florida, same thing, right? But where is all the money going at the federal level? Oh, to save California and New York, who have been terrible with their money. And now, guess what? Us as taxpayers in Georgia, we get to pay for that. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah. So all of the states that have done so and bent over backwards and cut budgets where they had to, we had to trim things. Okay, so we couldn't have as many highway. We're still, I think we're something like 800 patrolmen short on the highway patrol. We are hundreds of officers short in other police departments. A lot of that, of course, is because of the defund the police movement and the left-wing loons that think it's better to have social workers than police officers.
One thing to make sure you're aware of when you go into the voting booth, that the Democrats are the defund the police party, and, some things that you should do before you go vote, Bill. Number 1, go to the grocery store. Number 2, fill your car up with gas. Number 3, look at your 401k. Then go vote.
And by the way, if you get an electric car, electricity, just to give you a heads up here, isn't free. So when people say, "Well, I don't have to I don't have to pay for gas anymore," still have to pay for electricity. And by the way, how is electricity generated?
I think it's coal, isn't it?
Oh yeah, And what did the president say over the weekend about coal plants?
No more drilling. They're not going to do anything. I think.
Oh, and he also said no more coal plants.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah.
He's a sneaky little guy, isn't he?
Yes. So Joe Manchin, let that be a lesson to you for voting with the Democrats again, and why you haven't come over to become a Republican is beyond my comprehension. He was giving the president down the road for his comments. He said, "Well, you just voted for this Inflation Reduction Act, and you were promised that a pipeline in your state was going to be approved, and it wasn't."
Weird how that happens, Bill.
Yeah.
And also, here's the other thing. The states should really negotiate their own deals like that. I don't think that it should be done at the federal level. The states should really control what goes into their state. And West Virginia, guess what? They're all about coal and gas. And
almost heaven.
Yeah. And it's very rural. And I think that they are the most Trump-esque state out there, if I'm not mistaken.
Trump won by something like 78, 82%.
Yeah. And it probably would be higher than that today, wouldn't it, Bill?
And Joe Manchin should be happy that he, as a Democrat, that they elected him because they thought he was standing up for him. Apparently, he's finding out that, and they're finding out that maybe they got buyer's remorse or voter's remorse here.
Well, here's the thing. Good thing he's not up for re-election this time.
Yeah.
I think he might be packing his bags, but I still think that will happen in the next few years when he is up for re-election.
We can focus pretty much on the governor's race. And by the way, Stacey Abrams was here in Savannah over the weekend, and she had star power with her. Natalie Portperson was here, along with some others, and she was talking about the 3 things that voters don't care about.
Oh, can't wait to hear.
The top 3 things what are the top 3 things people care about? Crime, inflation, and food prices. Okay, she was talking about abortion, and gun control, and one of the other topics.
Or something? Environment or something?
Some sort of a green.
Or January 6th. That's really all they have on their plate.
Some sort of a green raw deal.
Yeah, people don't care about those things, Bill. Turns out when you can't pay your bills.
No, it's way down on the priority list. And when they start making fun of us because because we are concerned about inflation and crime, is pathetic. And the Hildebeest, her husband, and others have been going around. The Dalai Lama have been going around saying that what's the big deal about crime? Why do people worry about that so much? Bill Clinton was out saying you'd think that from what you could hear from the Republicans that Lee Zeldin was giving Kathy Hochul, saying that Kathy Hochul was handing out baseball bats and crowbars to go into the subways. And people were laughing. The audience was laughing at that.
How disingenuous.
Being pushed in front of a subway is not exactly what I would consider comedy.
Yeah, well, and how disingenuous of these people, Bill. We're the ones that have to live with this every day, and they were saying that this is the highest that people have cared about crime on the issues. This hasn't happened since the 70s, and the crime was worse in the 70s, but they're saying the amount of crime that's impacting everyday people that live in, just suburban areas, rural areas. We talked with Buddy Carter not too long ago, and one of the things he was saying is that there are gangs in these rural areas due to the cartels. Mm-hmm. That's something we've never seen before because they have full access to the border. They're running the border. They actually put in Tijuana, did you hear this? That the cartels were trying to put in a
voting
curfew.
Machine?
No, a curfew.
A curfew.
A curfew for everyone. And so the cartels are running everything down there. It's not good for us, Bill.
That's there are two people that you don't want running things, and both of them are the cartels. It is just pathetic. These people are vicious, they are mean, they are murderers, rapists, and they have plenty of money. And the Democrats are letting these people into our country. We don't know who's coming in. Over 2 million people have crossed our border illegally since Joe Biden became the president of the United States. At least that's what they said, he was the president of the United States. Of course, I think when they wake him up every morning, they have to remind him of that.
Well, I think that's on the low end too, Bill. I think 2 million is on the low end
I think you might be right.
I mean, I've heard as high as 4 to 6. So because they're not accounting for things and they're not processing people the way that they should be. And, you can't have a country without a border.
Yeah, and they say that they picked up 600,000 of these MI-13s and other people that have come across the border. Those are the ones that they found. God knows how many they have come across that they didn't find. And where do they go? Where are they?
Well, I don't know. I know some of them are down in Brunswick. Yeah. Like when we talked to someone in Brunswick, they were like, yeah, we have MS-13 here. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's a small little community.
And I'm sure here in Savannah. It's just unbelievable that they're letting these people in here and they have no plans to try to pick them up or round them up or anything else. That our Border Patrol agents have become babysitters.
Well, not only that, Bill, what happens when they come into the country? I mean, if you don't have a work visa, you can't work here, so how do you make money? I mean, I don't know. I think that criminally, that would be an easy way to make money without having to actually work.
Yeah. And Election Day coverage is going to continue next at News Radio 90.
Whoa!
Old habits die hard, don't they?
Whoa.
Yeah, here at Get Real America. We're coming right back.
I don't want to pay 1 penny more in taxes.
And I don't want to pay 1% on everything we buy.
Wait a minute. Is that what T-Splosh is?
It is. Vote no to T-Splosh.
Reverend Warnock's running a nasty, dishonest campaign. Perfect for Washington. The Reverend doesn't even tell my full story, my true story. As everyone knows, I had a real battle with mental health. Even wrote a book about it. And by the grace of God, I've overcome it. Warnock's a preacher who doesn't tell the truth. He doesn't even believe in redemption. I'm Herschel Walker, saved by grace, and I approve this message. Reverend Warnock.
Hey everybody, just finished a great stop up here in Ringgold, Georgia.
Incredible support for our veterans up here in Northwest Georgia. We cannot thank this community enough for showing their tribute to our men and women in uniform and those that have served and sacrificed.
God bless.
Governor, in recent weeks, 2 recordings have surfaced in which you left the door open, or you appeared to leave the door open, to questions about whether you'd push to ban emergency contraceptives and whether you'd back a statewide ban on the destruction of embryos. Can you tell us right now whether you'd push for these measures or any other additional restrictions on abortion now that the 2019 law is in effect?
No, I would not. I mean, look, we were at many campaign events, people come up, secret recordings, couldn't completely understand the conversation that's going on, but no, that's not my desire to do that. Georgians should know that my desire is to continue to help them fight through 40-year high inflation and high gas prices and other things that our Georgia families are facing right now, quite honestly, because of bad policies in Washington, D.C. from President Biden and the Democrats that have complete control. And thankfully, working with the Georgia General Assembly, we've been able to work to help give some relief to people despite what's happening in Washington, like giving a income tax credit back to our citizens, cutting taxes, also suspending the gas tax since March now, $800 million of relief for our hardworking citizens. So that is what my focus has been on, and it's what it will continue to be on.
Thank you very much.
I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
I admired Herschel from the beginning. Herschel has always been challenged about doing things that people thought he wasn't capable of doing. He wants to be the best, and he has striven to do that, disciplined himself to do that, falls sometimes along the way, but he gets back up, and with his incredible drive and self-discipline, he has achieved mighty things. He's a real patriot of this country. He loves the United States of America. He also is realistic that it can be better. He is not a, quote, politician. There is a need in this country. There is need in this state for somebody like Herschel. Knowing him, the character that he has, he will make a great United States Senator.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
It's Election Day. I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Please get to the polls. That is your patriotic duty. I remember when the people of Iran and Iraq got to, over in the Middle East, when they got to vote for the first time, they stood in line for days. And there's mortar shells falling. There's machine gun fire going on. But they were anxious to get that purple finger.
Well, and, you know, I would love to see people be that excited about voting here, Bill. I think that that's something that has been lost upon us as a society and a culture. But I do think that we're going to see a big change. I think there's been a big shift, number one. And number two, people are done with these policies that have really harmed us in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to see the purple finger thing done here. That would be an easy way to tell if somebody's voted or not. This is that indelible ink. It won't wear off for weeks.
So we can call people out, Bill?
Yeah, that's a good idea. So
I like it.
you can't vote several times, okay?
Yes, just
You
once.
can vote only once.
Yes. And, you know, yesterday we were going to look at a video. We didn't have it ready, but we do have it ready today. And, you know, we want to be fair. So we want to give you, you know, both sides. And, you know, let's look at why you should vote Democrat. What are some reasons?
If nothing else, we're fair and
Then, America was saved. Embraced by the loving arms of our new president, Joe Biden. Biden has brought back kindness and decorum.
Liar, man. Look, here's the deal.
No, I wish you were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
Biden is a voice of clarity.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
A voice of reason.
He is the smartest man I know. They're going to put you all back in chains.
And he's good with numbers.
Let me start off with 2 words. Made in America. $700 billion and $1.3 trillion.
Under his leadership, the Biden administration has brought us safety. It has brought us economic prosperity. It has empowered the next generation. And now, you have the chance to make sure it continues for another 2 years. This election day, vote for whoever the Biden administration is asking you to vote for. They know what's best. Together, we will ensure things will continue to go the way they've been going forever and ever.
I'm Joe Biden and I approve this, who? You know the thing.
You know the thing.
The thing, always.
That's right, yeah. That Constitution thing.
Oh, my gosh. So while we're having a little fun this morning on this election day, you know, I think that it speaks volumes to the fact that there is no clear message on the Democratic side. And when you see people that are separating themselves from Joe Biden and then sounding like Republicans, I don't think these are people that we should trust, Bill.
Exactly, because one of the races we haven't talked about is the lieutenant governor's race. And Burt Jones is running for lieutenant governor from the Republican side because Jeff Duncan, who I thought was going to be spectacular as lieutenant governor, and I don't know if he hit his head and got Dane Bramage or something, because all of a sudden he turned into this big, we need to go forward. We don't need to look at the past elections and everything. Biden was elected properly, and so Jeff, I'm sorry. I love you like a brother, but I'm glad you're not running for re-election. Burt Jones, I love the way they in the paper they had to describe he eked out an election runoff. Well, he won. I mean, where you eke it out or not. So you could say this past weekend that LSU eked out a win over Alabama in overtime, but they won, for goodness sakes. So he avoided a runoff by some 813 votes, and that's pretty good. When you go to a runoff. Second place finisher was Georgia Senator Butch Miller. And meanwhile, his challenger is Chuck Bailey, who had to have a runoff and to win his Democrat nomination. He won it easily, but at the same time, he tries to sound exactly like a Republican. He originally sought, by the way, the state's attorney general's office. That didn't work out for him. But they say he grew up on a cattle farm in rural Georgia County. He graduated from the University of Georgia School of Law and served as a senior assistant district attorney for Fulton County, where he specialized in prosecuting organized crime. Well, that worked out well. His primary campaign focus, he said, is on the criminal justice system. He supports better, more competitive pay and training for Georgia police officers. Does this sound like a Democrat? And also he wants to budget increase for Georgia's Department of Investigation to reduce the backlog of rape test kits. He also lists among his priorities as teacher pay and hiring, free technical school tuition, and expanding Medicaid coverage gap to address the needs of 600,000 uninsured Georgians. Now he's sounding more like a Democrat. So that's what we have as far as the Democrat who is running for lieutenant governor. Whereas Jones, they said he served 10 years in the Georgia Senate. Most recently, he sponsored legislation regarding aid to disabled veterans and income tax incentives for teacher recruitment and retention. He serves as chairman of the Insurance and Labor Committee, secretary of the Rules Committee. He's also a member of the Appropriations and Transportation Committees. The petroleum and insurance business owner, hails from Jackson and Butts County. He's been in the news for his involvement in the 16 fake electors gathered by the Georgia GOP chairman David Schaefer at the Georgia Capitol on January the 6th.
Yeah, and Burt Jones, he was a Trump-backed candidate, and from what I've seen from Burt Jones, he's a little bit of a firebrand here in Georgia.
Yeah.
He's not scared to stand up and do what's right, even when it's hard. I think that's, I believe his name was on a list of 25 prominent Georgia Republicans that were subpoenaed from our lovely Merrick Garland.
Yeah.
Or the DOJ, sorry. It wasn't. It couldn't be Merrick Garland.
Same thing. But also Ryan Graham is also a candidate for lieutenant governor. He's the Libertarian. He's also chairman of the Libertarian Party in the state of Georgia. He is an IT guy, and he's an Athens native. He now lives in Atlanta. Spent his career in information technology industry, and said his passion lies in getting government out of the way and letting individuals create solutions. Well, we couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah, that's why I'm like a good libertarian could really fit into the a portion of the Republican Party, and I think it would help. It would help a lot. I think those third-party candidates, Bill, they throw a wrench into things.
It isn't going to work. I'm sorry.
It never has.
You won't have any. You've got no constituents.
Well, not only that, they've had kind of an interesting past in the Libertarian Party. They've had some crazies tied to them that make people kind of a little bit weary of what they believe in and things like that. So
we'll see.
Yes.
Meanwhile,
there is a lot going on, Bill. I think, one of the things that's been interesting to watch is who knew that New York, one of the most blue cities, blue states, is actually looking like it could be for Lee Zeldin. You know, Jews specifically have been really, really ingrained to vote Democrat. And, you know, I have a video here that I saw of, you know, lines and lines of people waiting for Lee Zeldin, which is unheard of, Republican.
And you can see the lines here to vote for Lee. This is unprecedented in the state of New York, and Jews in this country, unfortunately, have overwhelmingly voted Democrat, and it's a shame. When I was in Israel some years back, it was during the re-election campaign for George Bush as president. And I was expecting from conversations I was going to have with a lot of Jewish people, we were doing my radio show from over there, and I was expecting a lot of people coming up and saying, boy, you know, we sure do hope that John Kerry wins the election. It was just the opposite. A lot of people saying, boy, we sure hope George Bush gets reelected. And I said, excuse me? The editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post, who I was really surprised at how young he was. I mean, he looked like he was maybe in his mid-20s or late 20s. And he was saying, you know, dear God, let George Bush get reelected. And I was like, wow, you need to talk to your American counterparts, and because that's not the case over in the United States.
Well, it's interesting how closely people in other countries follow politics.
Mm-hmm.
And Dinesh D'Souza, his daughter, was on a show that I heard recently, and she was talking about how most of her father's family is still in India.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about how closely they follow the election here in the U.S., and they love Marjorie Taylor Greene, which I thought was hilarious because she's, you know, a congressman from Georgia, but who knew that she would be so popular in a foreign country like India?
They follow the American politics because they know as America goes, so goes the world.
That's true. And I don't think Americans understand the power that we have, and that,
or the importance.
Yes, that we can really change the course for other countries, and people are rooting for us regardless of what you hear in the news. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the radicalism that you hear. People do really root for us because when we do well, they do well.
And when President Trump was in, he was so criticized by the media for actually trying to hold our allies' feet to the fire on, paying for NATO and other things, that they were not paying their fair share, shall we say. They're supposed to pay 2% of their GDP on defense, and most countries were not. And, you know, one of the things that always impressed me about the people of Finland, Finland was the only country that paid back their war debts after World War II. So I always like those folks.
Hey, I love people that pay their bills.
Yeah. And he was, you know, and got just chastised by the media for saying, oh, he's offending our allies by asking them to pay their fair share. Oh, please. And what they start doing, most of them started stepping up to the plate. They may not have gotten all the way to 2%, but at least they started paying a lot more than they had in the past.
I don't think that's true in the last 2 years. I think they quit paying.
Well, I'm sure of that. And we rejoined the World Health Organization, for God's sake. And what a piece of crap those people are.
Yeah, just bad decisions all the way around with this administration. And I think, you know, it is voting day. Just a reminder, go out, vote.
So for goodness sakes, get to the polls. They'll be open. They're open right now. They'll be open until 7 o'clock tonight. As long as you're in line by 7, you can vote. Don't complain tomorrow if your candidate doesn't win today.
No, but I think right back. Bill and I will be celebrating later.
Yes, sirree. So that's coming up next.
I don't want to pay 1 penny more in taxes.
And I don't want to pay 1% on everything we buy.
Wait a minute. Is that what T-Splosh is?
It is. Vote no to T-Splosh.
Reverend Warnock's running a nasty, dishonest campaign. Perfect for Washington. The Reverend doesn't even tell my full story, my true story. As everyone knows, I had a real battle with mental health. Even wrote a book about it. And by the grace of God, I've overcome it. Warnock's a preacher who doesn't tell the truth. He doesn't even believe in redemption. I'm Herschel Walker, saved by grace, and I approve this message. Reverend Warnock.
Hey everybody, just finished a great stop up here in Ringgold, Georgia.
Incredible support for our veterans up here in Northwest Georgia. We cannot thank this community enough for showing their tribute to our men and women in uniform and those that have served and sacrificed.
God bless.
Governor, in recent weeks, 2 recordings have surfaced in which you left the door open, or you appeared to leave the door open, to questions about whether you'd push to ban emergency contraceptives and whether you'd back a statewide ban on the destruction of embryos. Can you tell us right now whether you'd push for these measures or any other additional restrictions on abortion now that the 2019 law is in effect?
No, I would not. I mean, look, we were at many campaign events. People come up, secret recordings, couldn't completely understand the conversation that's going on, but no, that's not my desire to do that. Georgians should know that my desire is to continue to help them fight through 40-year high inflation and high gas prices and other things that our Georgia families are facing right now, quite honestly, because of bad policies in Washington, D.C. from President Biden and the Democrats that have complete control. And thankfully, working with the Georgia General Assembly, we've been able to work to help give some relief to people despite what's happening in Washington, like giving a income tax credit back to our citizens, cutting taxes, also suspending the gas tax since March now, $800 million of relief for our hardworking citizens. So that is what my focus has been on, and it's what it will continue to be on.
Thank you very
I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
I admired Herschel from the beginning. Herschel has always been challenged about doing things that people thought he wasn't capable of doing. He wants to be the best, and he has striven to do that, disciplined himself to do that, falls sometimes along the way, but he gets back up, and with his incredible drive and self-discipline, he has achieved mighty things. He's a real patriot of this country. He loves the United States of America. He also is realistic that it can be better. He is not a, quote, politician. There is a need in this country. There is need in this state for somebody like Herschel. Knowing him, the character that he has, he will make a great United States Senator.
Good
Welcome
morning.
Back. It's Get Real America on Election Day. And you just saw the commercial with the late, great Vince Dooley. And this wasn't something, Vince would not have done this had he not believed in Herschel. Vince was the genuine article. And what you see is what you got. I've known Vince Dooley for well over 40 years, interviewed him on numerous occasions when I was doing television sports and then doing radio after that. And he was always a gentleman, always accessible, very erudite man that really, really loved America, loved the school, and loved what he did, and he loved Herschel Walker. And one of the things that he talked about this for long before Herschel ever ran, when Herschel was being recruited by the USFL, well, and that didn't last very long, but they were recruited by the Canadian Football League, offered him a bundle of money to sign, and he turned it down. And Vince actually talked to him and said, Herschel, we're talking about, your future and how much, this could help you and your family and things of that nature. And, how could you turn down all that money? He said, Coach, I'm an American. I was born in America. I don't think I should have to leave the country to make a living.
And that's why you should vote for Herschel Walker.
And that was when Herschel was in his early 20s.
So he's always had like a good foundation. And I think
exactly.
the fact, I've seen him a couple times. I've been to a couple of his rallies, and I will say his speeches have gotten better as the campaign's gone along, but he did really well. I went to Richmond Hill and saw him speak last week, and he really does the right thing. And he, someone had asked him at this rally if he would pray with them, and he said, yes, absolutely. And then he was shuffled off by his campaign people, and they were trying to get him back on the bus. And he was like, no. I told these people I would pray with them. So he went and found these people, prayed with them. And then there was this gal that had special needs. He made sure that he, took pictures with her because she was infatuated with Herschel, very excited. She was a Georgia Bulldogs fan. So very exciting stuff just to see Herschel in his element, and just to be like a genuine, real person. Like, it's not an act with him. Like, it's who he is. So I will say if you missed out on seeing him speak, you did really miss out.
You did indeed, because Herschel, again, he is the genuine article. And what gets me is that we hear people all the time saying, we're tired of the career politicians. And then when you have Herschel come along or somebody like that, they said, you don't have any experience in politics. Well, good.
Thank goodness.
That's what the late great. I was honored to know and be friends with the late great Herman Cain, and God knows I miss him. Sure wish he was still around to help us out here. But what a delightful gentleman. I think he's the best president we never had. He was. They all of a sudden, when the Democrat machine and all the communists found out that there's a conservative black guy that could, and a Republican who could become president of the United States. Suddenly, they went after him so viciously. Suddenly, 5 or 6 women he'd never heard of or met in his life start coming forward about all these sexual allegations and affairs that they had with him. And he actually told me later. He said, I had to get out of the race because it was destroying my family.
Well, where have we
had to drop out. And he said the thing that was so interesting, Brittany, is as soon as he left the race, those women vanished.
It's so interesting. I think I've heard this story in concert how many times? Like people that run for election, I mean, you always hear these nightmare stories, and we have people that we talk to.
Hearing the same thing about Herschel.
Yeah, that are like, if I did it over again, I wouldn't run because of the damage it did to my reputation, to my company, to, those around me. And also it impacts your children. Like, it's really hard for younger people to run and want to put their family through the shenanigans of, the attacks and paying people to say whatever, they think that can hurt you.
We have enough trouble with bullying at school now, and all of a sudden these kids who are the offspring of these candidates go to school, and now that not only they have to put up with the bullying from just the standard stuff, now they have to put up with the bullying from the political side, and have people cast aspersions on them. And it is ridiculous. And because I remember they always told us, when Bill Clinton was in office, hands off Chelsea. You don't talk about the kids. When the Dalai Lama was in, you didn't talk. If you said anything about the Obama children, the roof caved in.
Yeah, but Barron Trump, he was, ridiculed and so many awful things said about him. And even when they moved to Florida, I know that they had a really hard time getting him into a school because of all of the stuff that was going on and just the accusations and
If you've seen that kid's IQ, by the way, it's in the stratosphere.
Not only that, I'm like, how are you so tall? Like, he's so tall. He's a very tall kid. So
well, Trump is a pretty tall guy, and Melania is not. Melania is not a shorty either.
Yeah.
So you got good DNA along those lines.
Yeah, and Melania, she actually took a lot of heat, but for being not very smart. But she speaks 5 languages, Bill, and she's probably one of the most eloquent first ladies we've ever had. She's and she.
The criticism that she was taking, and Michelle Obama was an international embarrassment with the garbage that she wore. And everything that she spouted, when she, even on the campaign trail, the first time when she said, up until now I'd never been proud of my country. What kind of communist propaganda is that? Of course, Barack himself is a communist, so that's not a big surprise. But she was an embarrassment, and every time we turned around, my wife finally said, I hate to go to the grocery store because every time I turn around, I'm looking at a magazine that's got Michelle Obama's picture on it.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous, and yet they not only tried to besmirch her, they tried to shut down her businesses. They tried to shut down the businesses of the Trump children, who already had established themselves. They didn't go to China to make any big deals and shady deals there. They actually were erudite business people who did it properly, and they're still being investigated.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I just plead with everyone that's going out to vote today to really think about the shenanigans that have really happened in the last 2 years and how they've come after people for their political views. And are those the people that we want running the country? Are those the people that are the best of who we are as Americans? I don't think so.
No, they're not. And they do not deserve the power. They do not deserve to be in office. These are people that run your lives. please be aware. And also, before you get to the polls, if you haven't voted already, look over all of the amendments that are on the ballot as well, and make sure that you know what you're voting for, how you're going to vote on that. That'll save a lot of time for you. And we used to say the voting booth. There's not any voting booths anymore. You got these little kiosks.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one of the amendments that I just want to touch on, because I think when you read it, you think, oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And one of them is if someone is indicted. That word indicted sounds very serious, but they haven't been charged and they haven't been convicted. So the word indicted, they said if someone's indicted that is serving in office, and I just want to say Burt Jones, because he was put on that subpoena list of 25 Republicans here in Georgia, if they're in office and they are indicted on any charges, that they would stop getting paid. And I just want people to think about the climate that we're in right now. If that were to happen, it makes it so maybe he's not getting a paycheck, therefore he can't afford to defend himself. You know, his family doesn't have resources. Those types of things, we really need to think about how they will impact us in this type of climate. And, you know, we should always think about those things. But I just want to say, like, that's something that could be very dangerous for our side of the aisle, Bill.
That is for sure. It is, and remember, suddenly we become guilty until proven innocent.
Oh, the worst thing that's ever happened in this country.
Yeah, because people go on the tenuous logic that if the guy hadn't done anything, the police wouldn't be accusing him.
Yeah, well, when they plant evidence or they make stuff up, it makes it really easy for people to believe things. So, you know, one of the things that I can't believe, Bill, is that as we're going through an energy crisis, as gas is, you know, rising and they continue to sell off our gas to other countries, which is always interesting. You know,
and as we get our knees bloody begging our enemies to sell us the oil.
Yeah, I mean, Biden's out this weekend, which is never a good thing, I would say, when he's running his mouth. But, you know, I'd like to take a look at this video about how he feels about drilling.
Yeah. He accidentally stumbled on the truth, I think, without even realizing it, and sort of stabbing our own drilling.
Thank you. No more drilling. There is no more drilling. I haven't formed any new drilling. No, that was before I was president. We're trying to work on that, get that done. Thank you.
So, Bill, if I'm not mistaken, that kind of sounds like he's working on shutting down more pipelines to hurt us. Is that what I just heard?
That's what you just heard. I don't know how you can be that stupid.
Well, they used to hide what they were doing, Bill. They used to, you know, be better liars, but now they're just open about it. And
I don't know who's advising him. The people that wake him up in the morning and tell him his farina is ready and that and by the way, you're the president of the United States. But following this green raw deal is pathetic. My daughter does a lot of painting my wife does property management, and she comes in and she repaints apartments and things that need it, and touch-ups or whatever, or completely repainting them. When she finishes, it looks like a wedding cake. God knows she's terrific.
I love it.
But she was just complaining over the weekend how expensive paint was now. And why is paint gotten so much more expensive? In case this idiot doesn't know, it's because paint contains a lot of petroleum products. The reason that our farmers can't get a lot of the fertilizer that they need to grow crops, that a lot of it, things that we like to eat, and most of us got into this habit of eating when we were first born, and it's been hard to break the habit.
It's a terrible habit.
Yeah, it really is. Comes from petroleum products. Most of the clothes that we have on, or the pens that we write with, or the plastics that hold things like human blood and all the great medicines that you need when you're getting a surgery or something of that nature are petroleum products. So what we don't just get gas. I remember that great Exxon commercial that they were talking about all the research that they were doing and all the different things that they did, and the one lady comes on to the lab and says, "And you thought we just made the gas?" No, that's just a small portion of what these petroleum companies do and oil companies do. And now this idiot who has never signed the front of a paycheck in his life, none of the Biden administration people have ever been in the private sector. None of them have any private sector, even from running a lemonade stand or working at Starbucks. And I'm mad at Starbucks, so I don't go there anymore. But
support local.
Yeah, but they have never had any business experience. That's why when the real president of the United States, Donald Trump, was in office, when he made business deals, things worked. Remember, before he was president, remember they were trying to fix up an ice skating rink or something in New York City?
Yep.
The government had tried it. 5 years they were trying to get this thing upgraded. He bought it, and within 3 weeks had it fixed.
Yep.
And up and running.
Yeah, well,
5 years for the government, 3 weeks under the private leadership of people who know what they're doing in business. And this guy who had no foreign experience had negotiated so many peace deals. Every time I used to, whenever somebody was saying that the peace process in the Middle East, I used to fall off the chair laughing because there was no peace process. He had actually had treaties signed. There were some more that they were getting ready to sign when they kicked him out of office illegally.
Yeah, Bill, and I think when you look at Joe Biden supporting, Kathy Hochul, not the best politician, I would say. She's asking Biden to come to New York to help her. New Yorkers are not buying it. They don't like Biden. Even though they voted for him, they're like, this was a disaster.
Yeah, they've had voters remorse on this guy.
Definitely, but
because they were sold a bill of goods.
Having him come out to try and help her win votes, I'm just like, man, bad politicians. Bad strategy.
And when she asked Lee Zeldin in their debate, why are you so concerned about crime? Oh, because somebody tried to stab him to death on stage when there was also a shooting in front of his house just about 3 or 4 weeks back, and some of those bullets missed his two children by about 90 feet. Yeah, no wonder he's a little bit concerned.
Yeah, there's been a lot of crime, Bill, and we'll talk more about that when we get back. There's a lot of stuff we haven't heard about. Yep,
and wait till you hear this coming up.
Reckless spending, driving up inflation, higher prices that hurt Georgians.
I'm trying to save $2, and Senator Raphael Warnock votes to spend almost $2 trillion.
$140 to fill my truck. And Senator Warnock voted to allow $140 million to be spent building a resort in Florida?
$15 for burgers. Senator Warnock voted to allow $15 million to be spent on a soccer stadium in New Jersey.
Tell Senator Warnock to stop voting for reckless spending. Stop.
Stop. Please stop.
I don't do it out of obligation. I don't do it because I'm told. I don't do it because I was trained. I don't do it to be bold. I stand for our national anthem because I'm forever grateful to be free. I stand for the anthem to respect those before me. We have wounded warriors who would return only if they could. Doing more for this country than any single person should. Stand up. Their lives were given for you. So as long as the Star-Spangled Banner yet wave, I stand for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
At my core, I'm a runner, but I wasn't always fast. Here in Wrightsville, Georgia, is where I grew up, and I got real fast. I learned discipline, faith in God, and the value of hard work. I learned about sacrificing the things you want in the moment for the future you know you can have if you work hard enough. You might stumble, make mistakes, but you only fail if you give up. The politicians pick American against American, rich versus poor, black versus white. I don't believe in that garbage. I'm a conservative, not because someone told me to be. I'm a conservative because I believe in smaller government, a strong military, and making sure all people have the opportunity to pursue their dreams. My name is Herschel Walker. I'm a kid from a small town in Georgia who's lived the American dream, and I'm ready to fight to keep that dream alive for you too. I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
Say no to T-Sploss.
That's right, no.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
It is election day. Polls will be open till 7 o'clock tonight. As long as you're in line by 7, you can vote. And I hope the lines are long, long, long today.
Yeah, and while you're standing in line, you know what you could do? You could chat with people that are in your area and get to know them. Build community while you're in line.
And you can get water.
Oh, you can?
You can get food. You could call out, from Papa John's, order pizza or whatever it is that you want to do.
That doesn't sound like the Jim Crow law I was aware of.
No, yeah. Yeah, you know that the Democrats are lying with their lips and moving.
Yes, that's true.
And they said that, that we were Jim Crow 2, not only Jim Crow 2.0, we were Jim Eagle.
It's ridiculous.
According to the, and in fact, Brian Kemp was on last night, night before last, on with Trey Gowdy.
Okay.
On Sunday Night in America on the Fox News Channel. And he said, have you received an apology from Joe Biden? Has he called and apologized for saying we were Jim Crow 2.0? We were going by the Jim Crow laws here in Georgia. And Brian said, no, that hadn't gotten that phone call yet.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Bill.
really.
Yeah, I don't think that he's going to hear from them. I don't even know if he's going to hear from Stacey, let's be honest.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens today. But, we were talking about the crime and just some of the stuff that we had seen with Republican candidates. I mean, we just saw the thing with Kari Lake. And something that wasn't heavily reported on was this candidate in North Carolina. It's in the Charlotte area, District 14. And he's a West Point graduate. He's a Green Beret. I mean, fought in Afghanistan. Kind of our, Republican firebrands. Most of them fit this bill. But his name is Harrigan. His last name is Harrigan, and his children were sleeping in the home when a bullet grazed a window in his house. And no one reported on this bill. I mean, it was nowhere. You didn't hear the story. No,
because he wasn't a Democrat.
Yeah, but I mean, the amount of violence that's happening. I mean, there was just a parade 2 nights ago in front of Amy Coney Barrett's house, saying that she was illegitimate and unfit to serve on the Supreme Court. They had drums out. I'm like, can you imagine living in the same neighborhood as a conservative Supreme Court justice?
Actually, what happens is in many of those cases, just like Brett Kavanaugh, they're living in neighborhoods of very woke. The neighbors are actually encouraging this activity. They actually are welcoming it. Believe it or not, Ripley.
That's ridiculous.
It is. Because they don't like those people either. So they're living up there with those left-wing loons as next-door neighbors, and this is what the price they're having to pay.
It's ridiculous. Well, I would love to see the bank accounts of some of these people and who's paying them, Bill.
Yeah, I would. What a great idea. But let's see. As I know it sounds a little crude, but had a 6th grade buddy of mine that used to say, "Wish in one hand and spit in the other. See which one gets full first."
Okay.
Yeah.
Never heard that one before, Bill.
Well, there you go. Well, now you have. So there you have it.
All the things I'm learning.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So we have the most amazing inflation in over 40 years, and they're trying to tell you that Biden is working on it. And every time he says that he's doing everything that he possibly can to bring down gas prices, once again, I just fall off the couch in hysterics.
You know what numbers I haven't seen, Bill?
What haven't you seen?
I haven't seen the numbers from people that are still taking government checks that have not returned to work, because that's costing us a lot of money, I'm sure.
How about maybe the convicted felons in prisons that are getting those as well?
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Somebody would like to. I might check it with our sheriff John Wilshire here in Chatham County in Georgia on what the story is at his jail, and maybe P.J. Tanner over across the river in Beaufort County and where Hilton Head's located. So
we'll look into that, but it's a little crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, and credit card debt.
Yeah, the credit card debt in this country is absolutely crazy, and the Democrats are asking you not to believe your bank account or your 401ks. And
nothing to see here, folks.
No. And I believe we have some analysis just on the breakdown of credit card debt in this country.
Look at the shiny thing over here.
Mm-hmm.
How are Americans paying their bills? They are cash strapped after 18 straight months of declining real wages. So how are they coping with Biden's runaway inflation? Well, the unfortunate reality is largely through credit cards. Let's get to the numbers and the Chalk Talk that is powered by Getter. First, let's talk total debt, not just credit card, overall consumer debt. For the top 10% of earners, according to Bloomberg, there's been no change in their debt level. In other words, the wealthy can handle this level of inflation, but not so for the vast majority of Americans. For the bottom 90% of earners, total consumer debt has exploded, up $300 billion in just the last year. Now, a lot of that is via credit cards. Total credit card indebtedness in the United States right now is almost $900 billion. And in the most recent Fed report, it had surged year over year at a 13% clip. That is the highest pace in 20 years. Now, here's what makes this game incredibly dangerous right now: rising interest rates because of Biden's inflation. So the rate on an average new credit card is over 21%. And why does it really matter? Well, because only about a third of Americans are paying their credit card tab in full right now. Patriots, let's start fixing this entire mess by electing economic nationalist, patriotic populists.
Hey guys,
I don't think people are going to believe the fact that inflation is not that bad.
Yeah. In fact, it was so bad that guy had to froze.
Yeah.
I mean, he just couldn't believe it.
I mean, I can't believe it,
just awful. And they're trying to tell you that they're working on it. Yeah, they're working on it all right. Except they're working on it to go with to keep inflation going.
Didn't they say they had the most successful Senate and House?
Oh yeah.
Session that they've ever had.
Yeah,
Isn't that what they said?
Just like Nancy Pelosi was telling us when they were first elected under the Dalai Lama that they were going to have the most open and the most just going to be swimming in integrity.
Yeah, that really hasn't shown up, I don't think, Bill. But,
no, it hasn't.
But I think this today is so important, and I hope that everyone gets out and votes. And I hope that, Bill and I, we obviously lean a certain way, but hopefully you guys understand the impact that these people running our country now have had in your life. Because I know it's impacted my life significantly, and I am not better off since Joe Biden took office.
The most important thing that you do as a citizen is to vote. That is your number one duty as a citizen of the United States of America. It should be one of the things that you treasure the most, and that you make every possible effort to get to the polls and vote. Please.
Absolutely.
No complaining tomorrow.
No.
If you don't vote today.
Exactly. And hopefully, actually, Bill and I, we will be popping champagne. We are going to be celebrating the Big Red Wave. So we hope you'll catch us tomorrow. And check us out on YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, GRAnewsmedia.com, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
See you tomorrow. Hump Day.